going on? And welcome back to Average Joe's Library. And today I am excited to be back. And very minimal, but really excited announcement for me is I finally got a new office chair, and it makes all the difference in the world. I had a rinky-dink terrible one for a while, and now I have this nice black leather swirly one where I can just be super lazy now with when I record if I really wanted to. Just chill back in here. But I'm not going to do that because, especially after today's video, because today I want to talk about health and on my top health books. I'm not going to do that doing being lazy. So, if you didn't know, I work in the fitness industry. Health and fitness is the company that I work for. Or I work in health and fitness, and it's the company that I work for. We do mostly just on the fitness side, but we take in the whole picture of all of health, and I have definitely a big interest in overall health. So we read a lot of books centered around health, fitness, making one better, everything, the total package to improve yourself. We do a lot of books on leadership and habits and nutrition, recovery, all those things. And on the website that I work for, we do once a month we do a book review. We do one book a month. And even before we started doing that, we were all the people that I work with. We all would read books together and share them back and forth. Now we just formalize it and review them on our podcast, on the company podcast. So, out of all the ones that I've read, we've read a few dozen now. I wanted to pick out the ones top 5 centered around health. So this list is going to be my top 5 books on health, how to get healthier. If you want to get healthier, if you want to lose weight, if you have any issues that you want to clear up, if you just want to be better, anything like that has to do with your physical, mental health and well-being. These are my top 5, and this isn't necessarily the best 5 out there. This is more of this is the top 5 that I'm going to recommend to you to read, and then you can go from there on that. And also how this is going to be structured, instead of a countdown from 5 to 1, least favorite to favorite or whatever it is, I'm going to start with 1. Number 1 being the one that I would recommend first. So if you were to come to me and say, hey, I need a book to help improve my health, this is the first book I'm going to hand you, kind of thing. That's how the list is going to be structured. And there's going to be a few caveats to go throughout. There really is kind of just splitting hairs, but that's how I wanted to structure this. This is the first book I'll recommend, this is the next book I would recommend, and so on. So that you know kind of where to start, but you can really start with any of these depending on what you're looking for. So most of these books, most of these books I consume through audiobooks. So most times when I do any sort of nonfiction, health, self-development, anything like that will be through audiobooks. And the audiobooks are usually really, really well. And half the time, the person narrating on the audiobook is actually the author of the book. A lot of times in fiction and fantasy, you don't get that. You actually want like voice actors, but this one, they actually narrate them themselves. So I think that's something to note. And they all speak very well about what they're speaking on too. So that's always good to know. Now, when we consult athletes, people, anything like that, even just like my family or anything, or anyone that wants to get healthier, whether it's lose weight or anything like that, usually the first thing we want to do, you don't want to make a ton of changes at once. You want to try and get better a little bit as you go, so that it just stacks up over time. And then like you make one little change, and then that is your new norm. And then you make another little change, and then that is your new norm as you build that up. So a lot of times, what we always like to start with when improving someone's health overall and anything is sleep. So the first book on this list is called Why We Sleep. And sleep is such an important thing to have. And it's not just like, oh yeah, I get 6-7 hours, so I think I'm fine, that's all I need. You're dead wrong. I think most people could benefit from Why We Sleep. There's a lot of eye-opening things with this book. If you are somebody that thinks, okay, I've been getting 5-6 hours of sleep for a couple of years and I run fine, I think that's all the sleep I need. Only like 5% of people can actually go with that less of sleep. Most people need 7 to 8 hours of sleep, the vast majority. And it's not even just like, okay, I'm in bed for 7-8 hours. You need to actually be in bed for like an hour over what you need, what you think you need. And it's not just falling asleep for that time. There's like, how your heart is when you are asleep. Are you actually resting when you're asleep? Or you might think you're asleep, but your heart might be working more than you think it is. And you might not be all that restful unless you're like actually tracking heart rate or your sleep, which by the way, Aura Ring does really, really great for sleep tracking. Factoring all those things makes a huge difference. And like, if you're somebody that has alcohol before bed or something, you think, oh yeah, I'll have some wine and it'll make me sleep great. You're not sleeping, you're actually passed out. Your heart rate is, if you actually track your heart rate, you'll notice that your heart rate is way higher because your body's still working to expel those toxins to do that. And this is all stuff you'll learn in Why We Sleep and why it's so important. And a lot of times with people go start to add 1 or 2 hours extra sleep, they actually lose weight because your body isn't as stressed as it was before. It can actually run normally and more efficiently. So sleep, number one, why we sleep. Number two, this one, I kind of think is actually the biggest and best thing that you could do to change change the way you are, change the way your health is, and that is through diet and nutrition. So the book that I'm going to recommend for this is Wired to Eat. Diet and nutrition is such a huge deal when it comes to anything health wise and well being. It's also one that people are most resistant on to change, and one that has the most information out there that's always conflicting, always changing. Somebody said this, another person said this. I saw this documentary. I saw this blog post. Whatever. It's always changing. It's always uh, very convoluted, and people just don't know where to start. So with anything with nutrition and diet and stuff, don't watch documentaries because documentaries are heavily biased. They are heavily tailored to whoever is paying for the documentary, and a lot of times they have ties to their own, supplement companies or anything like that. And it's the science that they cite and the studies that they cite are heavily cherry picked. So you only get one little tiny glimpse of that is. And books even sometimes have that as well. Also, if somebody tells you that you need to be doing X diet, whatever the title is, I don't care what it is, whether it's vegan, keto, whatever. If somebody says this is the best way to eat, then they're already setting you up for failure and they're dead wrong. Everybody's nutrition is completely different no matter who you are. It is more, your gut bacteria is more individual, and what your body needs is more individual than your fingerprint. It is ridiculous, and there's a lot to learn, but books like Wired to Eat is like a great first step to cleaning up what you eat. Going to no processed foods, eliminating bad vegetable oils, processed oils, sugars, um, and even more extreme stuff. So at the end of the book, after you learn all the crazy things, all the good things to do to change, a lot of the principles can apply to most diets. And at the end, he actually tells you how to, there's a 30-day elimination diet and how you use a blood glucose monitor to test what you're eating to see what affects you. So you could be eating something that is having inflammation and effects on your body that are making issues throughout, whether it's ruining your sleep, making you gain weight, bloated, acne, anything like that. So if you eat something and then 30, 40 minutes later, you test your blood sugar and you have a spike in blood sugar, that means that food's no good for you. So if you just wanted to get into that. So I'm just trying to relay that nutrition is super, super important, and cleaning things up and learning, the more you know about nutrition, the better. I'll do a, side, 2B, whatever for this. Wired to Eat is probably my second favorite nutrition book. My all-time super favorite nutrition book is called Deep Nutrition. If you have already read a few about nutrition, think you know a little bit about nutrition, it could stomach a little bit more heavier, dense read for nutrition. Deep Nutrition is without a doubt the best one out there. Number three, Own the Day, Own Your Life. This one is really, really good because it hits on so many topics. Um, he will talk about sleep, he'll talk about nutrition, talk about some supplements and um vitamins that are key, how certain things about staying active, and he even goes into your sex life, training, timing of eating or anything like that, breathing, all pretty much everything. This is like a one-stop shop of what to hit. It wasn't first because I think sleep is just so important and to do that. But I think this is a great place to start. And once again, Aubrey Marcus, he's the author. He narrates this book. It is fantastic. I would really, really recommend this one because it's a quick, easy read or listen to. He'll hit on so many points, so best bang for your buck, and it'll just I think you can easily get a ton from this book. Also, one thing about this book, so by the time I read this book, I had already read a couple of dozen or so books in the nonfiction space. And a lot of what are in those other books, he takes in his book. So it's almost like he takes the best parts out of a lot of these books and puts them into his, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There's always going to be overlapping when it comes to nonfiction books. You'll find that you'll hear a lot of the same studies over and over, which is fine because it still proves they're just proving the same point. So he'll talk about building habits and what to do in your daily life, just a little bit like by little, and then at the end of each chapter is just like what to do. So this one is fantastic to check out. Number 4, breath or breathe. English language is weird. They're spelled the same, but I'm gonna go with breath. This one is I'm gonna say is the most mind blowing out of all 5 of these because it's just about breathing and it's just about breathing through your nose and how much nasal breathing impacts anything and everything that we do, we are, how we grow, how our teeth are formed, all of that stuff. The more we, people become a lot more of mouth breathers lately, and nasal breathing makes a huge, huge difference in everything, whether it's sleep, how your body's functioning, how it grows. Um, there are some older practices where when babies would eat, the mothers would close their mouth so that they would force themselves to breathe through their nose because your digestion works if you're breathing through your nose. And while I haven't gotten into many breathing exercises, it's good to just do a lot of deep nasal breathing for a while, or even while you're doing like low intensity exercises or just sitting around, just nasal breathing. It is such a mind blowing read, and it's for because it is kind of out there and different, and it's just about breathing, but super easy takeaway and application. Just breathe through your nose more, and it'll be about a lot about why breathing through your nose is better, and then some actual application and practices on how to do that. So it is really fascinating. It's really, really. And lastly, I'm gonna have like two because they're pretty similar. But the one I'll recommend is Art of Resilience. This one was really, really fun. This is more toward the fitness side of things, but there's still a lot of great applications and takeaways because of forming habits. And he goes into changing the mind frame and mindset when trying to achieve something. So the Art of Resilience, it's a book by the guy who just 3 or 4 years ago was the first man to swim completely around Great Britain. It took him like 170 some days. He never set foot on land. He would just stay on a boat the entire time, and even when they had pulled into port, he would stay on that boat and he swam the entire way around Great Britain, which is such a ridiculous journey. How he prepared physically and mentally, nutritionally, everything that he did. It was really, really fascinating. There's a lot of great lessons to take from it, especially if you're trying to achieve a goal. Even if it's not like a fitness goal, there's still lots to take away. But also, what's great about this one is it is really entertaining. It is actually funny. Some of the stuff that he went through, you will laugh, and it's actually like a great narrative. Most times, nonfiction books, they're just like it's almost like a list of information. They just go through a list. But this one, it's like his journey. You're going through the journey with him through the whole swim. So it's kind of like for all of us fantasy and fiction readers, it'll actually have a story and a plot to it, somewhat, but you'll learn stuff along the way. And he narrates his own book as well, and he does a fantastic job of it. And another one that is similar to that is called Endure by Alex Hutchinson. It's more of on the endurance side of things, but it's still about perseverance and pushing through. And there's a lot of overlap in their studies as well, and studies that have been covered in some of these. So those are really good on those fronts if you want to like really, really push through goals, especially if it's physical like training or anything like that. So those are my top 5. I guess I mentioned like 7 or 8 books on health that I would recommend. You can start anywhere on these and be better for it. I think it's really, really important to try and make yourself better a little bit here and there as you get older, as you just grow, and especially if you're having any sort of health issues, wanting to lose weight, having any sort of goals. Any of these will help with that. And then once you start a little bit some of these books, it'll be easier to add more in. And there's a ton out there, but I wanted to get out my top 5, the ones that are going to be the best bang for your buck when it comes to health and fitness, nutrition, anything like that, and make yourself better. Let me know if you know of any other ones that you would recommend or that you have read. What if you've read any of these? What are your thoughts? We can start talking about, some of the best points to take away from those. And I'll chat with you down in the comments.